to a family member's using a public genealogy website. Jessica Rosenthal, Fox News.
Houston is bracing for what could be a double dose of storms. Tropical Storm Laura and Tropical Depression 14.
HPD will provide water rescues and block flooded roads. HFD will conduct water rescues. Public Works will provide barricades, high water trucks, storm drain monitoring, and assist with clearing trees if needed. Solid Waste will monitor debris and have contracts in place if needed.
Mayor Sylvester Turner, Chevron, has announced it's pulling non-essential people off its rigs in the Gulf. Hundreds of wildfires burning all over the state of California, with nearly 24 large or complex fires in the San Francisco Bay Area.
We declare a statewide emergency, which fundamentally helps us avail ourselves of resources to combat these fires, both within the state and through our mutual aid system.
Governor Gavin Newsom, 12,000 firefighters are battling the fires, but Newsom says they are stretched to the limit and they're asking for help. He's asked for 10 other states to bring in resources. The Biden campaign says it and Democratic allies raised $70 million over the course of the 4-day convention. America's listening to Fox News.
Into the true frequency.
True Frequency Radio.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, welcome to the Paranormal Portal. I'm your host, Brent Thomas. And I hope you're doing great. It's kind of staticky tonight. I'm not sure why. It sounds like the Skype connection's a little live, heading back to the studio. But, again, I'm in the north of Idaho. You can't always count on our connection being pristine, but I am looking into some fiber option here that just moved into town. So stay tuned for that, because I think that's the direction we're heading. This would be a thing of the past if that were the case. At least I hope so, unless it's on the server end. And that's nothing I can do. But welcome, everybody. It's Friday. You made it. You made it through your week, and I hope you're looking forward to a great weekend. I believe I am. Again, got a good show, I hope, lined up for you guys. I'm excited about it. We got some listener emails to go through, and then a whole bunch of cool things that I found and dug up, and I'm excited to discuss with you. And also, just as a matter of reference, tomorrow we are welcoming Dan Hammond of podcast known as, and I got to keep doing this because I have a dyslexia for names, but it is, sorry about this, it's the Phantom Fact podcast. And Phantom Faction, sorry, that's where I screwed up. Phantom Faction podcast. And Dan's going to be joining us tomorrow night, and I'm going to be a guest on their podcast on the 31st, I think. Let me see. Yeah, on the 31st. Phantom Faction podcast. And they're a podcast out of Canada. And I've been listening to a little bit of their stuff, and they got a good thing going. It'll be a lot of fun. It'll be great to have an opportunity to meet and discuss things with them. And, of course, Dan will be here tomorrow night with us, and I'm really looking forward to that, because it's always great to talk to other paranormal broadcasters. I think that's exciting, and I'm really looking forward to it. So that's coming up tomorrow night. Don will be with me, of course, but I'm here flying solo tonight. However, the phone lines will be open throughout the duration of our show. So if you want to call in and be a part of tonight's show, please feel free. The number is 720-923-0500. Again, 720-923-0500. And you can certainly call in and share something paranormal that happened to you. I'm really sorry about that waterfall kind of sound. That's really disturbing. I wonder if it's. Let me try something here because I can, first of all. But I just want to make sure. I want to make sure if it's something on my end or not. So I'm gonna try re-adding something. No, that actually made it worse. Jesus, how's that possible? Let's try that again. I don't know how that got worse, but it got worse. So, my apologies for this. There we go. Back. I've never even heard of that happening before. What's the odds that you could actually get a worse connection by killing one of the many connections you got cooking? I don't know. That's a new one on me. But I do apologize for that hissing. There's not much I can do with it. But I will tell you, you should treat it like we're sitting next to a nice flowing stream. You got to talk yourself into this stuff, ladies and gentlemen. That's all I'm saying. There's ways to deal with even the most annoying things. Or it's a rain. We're sitting out in the rain. Work with the mental imaging. It helps me get by without pulling hair out and stuff. So, but anyway, I want to start out dealing with the listener emails that we got. God, that's horrible. Oh, no, it's not. It's a rain. It's a lovely, gentle rainfall. But I love it when you guys send me emails because it's really exciting to read your experiences, to read your stories, to see what you guys are experiencing firsthand. I love even more when you either call in or you're a guest on the podcast, but some people are just a little too shy for that, and that's fine. I'm happy to read these as they come up. But the first one I'm going to read to you is a couple of really positive ones that came up for this person. Hold on, let me minimize some things and resize. I got to resize. But, it's nice because oftentimes in the paranormal, we only hear about the negative stuff. We only hear about the dark stuff, the terrible stuff. So I think I'm going to try reconnecting the studio, though. I don't know if it's just that line. It could just be a flaky Skype connection. So let me try that too, ladies and gentlemen. Again, I apologize, but that is just noisy as hell. Wow. I disconnected and it's the same. All right, let me try it again. Just reconnecting here. Yeah, that did absolutely no good. So maybe it is on my end somewhere, but I have no idea where, ladies and gentlemen. This is a brand new sound. Everything's been pristine lately. So again, my apologize. It's rain. So this story's come from a listener called Cosmic Graham and says, "Hi, Brent. You said on your show that you like to share positive ghost stories. Well, this happened to a friend of my daughter's. Her friend lived across the street from a cemetery, and odd things would happen, like the garage door opening by itself when her mother drove up to the house. When the mother realized her daughter wasn't there, she said out loud, 'Okay, I'm going now,' after which the garage door closed. This was before motion sensors. Another time, the friend was arguing with her husband in the garage when he started to get a little violent. Well, she ran into the house through the connection door, but wasn't fast enough to lock the door behind her. And as soon as she cleared the door, it slammed shut and the bolt and the doorknob locked. So friendly ghosts protected her from her husband." And that, I think, is just amazing. I think that's absolutely amazing because, if they're going to be there, they might as well be some use. It's like drag a vacuum around, do something. So I guess if they work protectively, that's pretty awesome. But it could be a guardian angel kind of thing as well. It's hard to know, but it's a beautiful story nonetheless. There's more. She said, "This doesn't qualify as paranormal, but I thought you would appreciate this experience. I saw a past life regression done to help with a health problem. In one of the past lives, I saw myself as an old woman in a cave, dying alone. I had visualized this woman before years ago, and this took place aeons ago. The old woman's entire tribe had been killed by marauders. She was the only survivor, and she died of grief in the cave. As her spirit left her body, the children in the village came in the cave and took her back to the village. This was in a desert or savanna, so I assumed it must have been North Africa. The villagers were brown with black hair. The old woman, me, was now young, and she continued to teach the children as she had before. For what seemed to be several years, the village lived in perfect health, and all the adults were young. Their lives were ones of ease and plenty, and they were very happy. Then I noticed that my body was made of light, though I still looked like myself, but the villagers looked the same, human. And as I was noticing this, a few of the villagers' bodies changed to bodies of light. Soon all the villagers changed into bodies of light, and we left that plane. My first thought on arriving at a higher plane was, we did it. What's next? I realized that all of us were allowed this happy time together in the village to rid us of residual trauma from the tragedy that had happened. When this was done, we ascended to our origin and celebrated our successfully completed plan in the earth plane. And I was ready for the next adventure. This past life experience lightened my heart and reassured me that beautiful existence is awaiting us when we leave here. I knew before this that we move on to higher planes, well, maybe most of us, but I actually felt the joy of this higher plane, and it is still a clear memory. I hope you enjoy these stories. I really do. I think these stories are absolutely beautiful, and I think any past life or near-death experience or past life near-death crossover, I don't know how you'd kind of surmise that, but I've never recalled hearing someone relive a past life experience and then transition and remember the transitioning. You hear that from near-death experiences. People are transitioning as their bodies have had problems or something went wrong, and so they die. They're clinically dead, but they have these experiences of being on the other side and with loved ones or religious figures or whatever. And I think those are so powerful because, I mean, they're a beautiful reminder of what's possible, right? So I think that's awesome. But this is a really unique story that she remembers not only the past life experience, but she also remembers transitioning and how the transitioning went, and including the feeling of being on that higher plane. So what a beautiful thing that is. I think that's awesome, and I thank you so much for sharing those. That is just beautiful, and I think they're probably excellent reminders to all of us, especially with all the darkness going on in the world right now. I think we all need something light to hang on to. Let's see here. I'm going to go and get to the other one, and this one I just got a little bit ago, so I was really happy it came in time for the show. She says, "Hi, my name is Krista. I listen to your podcast every night, and I wanted to share my story, my life, and my paranormal adventures. This is all 100% true, and I plan to send a series of emails recounting my life, what I've seen, and how I felt. I even have a picture proof of a Bigfoot. That'll be exciting to see. I'm looking forward to that. My life is a bit crazy. A little about me. I grew up in Indianapolis, next to the Indianapolis 500 racetrack, and I now live in Florida. And I see and hear dead people, but more on that in later emails. The first time I saw a ghost, I was about 5 years old. My brother and I shared a room, and he had lost a tooth. Well, I was excitedly waiting for the tooth fairy to visit. In the middle of the night, I awoke to a lady with her hair piled on top of her head and what I now know as Victorian-style dress and clothing. She had a long, dark skirt and an off-white blouse with ruffles around her neck and the sleeves. And I remember thinking, well, this isn't what I thought the tooth fairy would look like. But she walked through the room with no sound, and she looked at me. Well, I wasn't scared. I was just mesmerized. But she looked at me, and without a sound, somehow I heard her, and she said, "Little girls are supposed to be asleep at this hour." I told her I'd been too excited to sleep, and she said, "I'm always here. Now go to sleep. It was kind. She was kind. Well, I laid my head down, and the next thing I knew, it was morning, and my mom was standing next to my brother and his pillow. Well, I sat up on my elbows and started to recount what I had seen that night, and she looked supersized, and she shook her head in disbelief. I now know I caught her in the act of putting money under the pillow. But more later. Well, thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to those more of those experiences. That is just brilliant and beautiful. And I mean, it's one thing to see a spirit, but have a very intelligent conversation is just awesome. I think that is just awesome. I wish that would happen to me. I could just talk to these spirits or whatever is around and say, hey, what's your story? But so far, I haven't really had any success. But anyway, other than, with the equipment like we used at the Coloma investigation, of course, that was pretty cool. But anyway, those are the 2 emails. Thank you so much for sending those in. I appreciate it. I got to ask you guys, how loud is this staticky stuff on your end? Because in my ears, it's really freaking loud. Chris in the chat says, I just imagine Brent's out in the shack in the woods. Yeah, that's about all I can do is imagine all this stuff. Yeah, Moog says it's loud. Okay. Yeah, that sucks. I don't know why it's doing it. We do have a phone call here, so let me get to the phone call and just see what's going on. Hey, area code 845, you're on the air.
Mr. Brent Thomas, how you doing? It's Carlton.
Wow, keep talking. It just got nice and quiet.
Well, if I can suppress noise for you, I'm happy to do so.
I'm just going to have to keep you on for the whole show, Carlton. That's it.
What's that?
I said I'm going to have to keep you on for the whole show now, so I hope you're not busy.
Oh, well, I'll hang out. I mean, I'm here for the portal. I'm here to support you in any way I can. If it means noise suppression, then I'm all over it.
Well, we'll test it out here after your call. We'll see if it comes back or if it's just cleared up because of the phone getting a call. But what's on your mind tonight, brother?
Not too much. Just wanted to say I was listening to a Sasquatch Chronicles episode just before the portal. I kind of listen to those in the background while I work on other stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the guys they had on, the guy was talking about Bridgewater, the Bridgewater Triangle area.
Yeah.
I don't know. You're familiar with that?
Yeah, out east. Yeah, that's out on the East Coast.
Yeah. And they were kind of hashing around some ideas around like Paranormal Portal and like ghost, or not Paranormal Portal, but ghost hauntings and like energies and stuff staying in the land and houses and that kind of thing.
Sure.
And I was sitting there thinking, while I was listening to it, like, aren't curses usually singular, right? And then I thought to myself, well, yeah, but they were saying that the Indian tribe that was there cursed that land when they left that land. And I thought,
yeah.
Well, that's interesting. I suppose if you had hundreds or thousands of Indians all focusing their own curse together at the same time, you get all sorts of manifestations if those came into reality in some way.
Right.
This is something I wanted to, mention to you.
That's really
something
cool.
I've been thinking about.
I think that a curse may... I got to bounce back. Yeah, is your volume up?
Yeah. Am I okay? I mean, not YouTube volume up. Just
Okay.
phone.
No, I just got a weird echo, but that's okay. I think it's cleared up now. I was going to say that, curses are it doesn't have to be like a singular directed act. It doesn't have to be like, you're not going to get pregnant, that's my curse, or you're going to get a bad rash and that's my curse. And it's only one thing. It can just be casting a darkness over an area, like and certainly that darkness may manifest any number of ways for each person as they're interacting with that, quote unquote energy. Of course, I believe those things can be mitigated, and you can lessen the blow or even negate the effect if you know what you're doing. But I think that it just could just be like, you ever had like a car that was a lemon?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and so it's not just...
Have I ever had one that wasn't?
Okay, but, it's not just, usually when you got a lemon, it's not just one thing. It could be this like one thing after another, after another, after another. And it's like that car is cursed. Well, it's because that manifestation happens, and it manifests something differently each time. Not that I'm saying that every lemon is a curse, but that's kind of how I would imagine it working. It's just that, casting a darkness and nothing will be, complete. Well, this echo I'm hearing might explain some of the bounce back I got last night. That sounded like little sound bites coming back at me. I was like, God, these sounds like a voice. Well, maybe it was my voice.
Oh, that could be part of it. That could be part of it. Well, that's funny you mentioned that, because that actually makes me think of one of the other Sasquatch Chronicles episodes I was listening to. They were talking about Flight 401, I think it was. It was a flight from New York to Miami that went down in the Everglades. And I guess American Airlines collected a bunch of the parts from that aircraft and installed them into other aircraft. And every single one of the pilots who flew one of those aircraft with those collected parts experienced the ghost of the pilot and co-pilot from that crash accident until they removed those parts. So I thought that was really interesting too. So what you're saying actually really makes a lot of sense now that I put the pieces together a little more.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that's creepy. Wow. I mean, I would think they would just send that stuff to the scrapyard, because it can't be good. Whatever comes out of a plane crash is probably pretty dark.
That's what I said. And like, why would you even put a used? I mean, like aircraft they have such high standards for parts replacement to begin with, and the cost of parts is so expensive. Like, why wouldn't you just replace the parts? I mean, why are you collecting crashed aircraft parts and putting them on working planes again? I don't get it.
They just go to the scrapyard out back and pull one off of the other wrecks. Oh God,
Right.
That's terrible. Yeah, that was a real tragedy. But yeah, there certainly could be imprints on things like that where so many people's lives were lost in such tragic way. Yeah, that's horrible.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I just thought I would mention those things or bring them into the conversation. Brent, thanks always for doing an awesome show, and I'll listen out and let you carry on.
All right, brother. Well, we'll see when you hang up what kind of connection I got afterwards, but thanks for calling in, brother.
All right, yeah, and hey, if you need a connection fix, I'll call back.
All right, sounds good, brother. Thank you.
All right, take care, Brent.
Okay. Well, looks like we're good now. Thank God. So we're back to just the little hiss, which is awesome. So we have a much gentler sound now. It's still not pristine and clear, but it's pretty darn good. So in comparison, it's freaking brilliant. We're at about the 5-minute mark. We're going to be getting into an article from our good friend Brent Swanser, the journalist, the paranormal journalist who I've been raving about. We've made the connection now on Facebook. I've talked to him, and he's just a really great guy, and he keeps churning out these amazing articles. So he said, yeah, go ahead and use them on the show. So we will be doing that coming up. Probably after the break, we'll get into that, but it's a really cool article dealing with portals and reality rifts in the wilderness. Now, I think that there might be a tie-in with some of the missing 411 stuff on these kind of things. So I'm really excited to read this article. I have not pre-read it, so I don't know what it's going to say. But, I mean, that's one of the theories that I've always had is like, is it because people are disappearing? If you listen to the David Paulides missing 411 stuff, people are in groups walking along and boom, suddenly somebody's gone and nobody's heard or seen anything in a matter of seconds. Well, how the hell is that possible? I mean, just think about how far could you move in just a few seconds, and for us, most people just be a couple steps, and you'd definitely hear that. But it just made me believe that maybe there's these portals, and I've shared that on the show before. Maybe there are these portals that are just open and closing, and people just fell into another version of reality or an alternate reality, or any number of possible theoretical physics kind of place. I don't know. I think that there is justification for that. In fact, I've theorized many times on the show also about things like when people are seeing pterodactyls. It's like nobody's finding pterodactyl bodies, and it's not the same thing as a Bigfoot, because a Bigfoot is operating on an intelligence level where they could very well be tending to their dead. I mean, that makes sense. The Neanderthals did it. They've found that Neanderthals buried their dead. In fact, Many people believe that we learned the prospect or the practice of burying our dead, perhaps from the Neanderthals. So, they do that, and I have to believe the Sasquatch are operating on a similar kind of intelligence, if not, a little more. I don't know. But when you're not finding a pterodactyl body, it's like they're not going to know, hey, I gotta, if I die, I gotta, make sure to die someplace that people won't find me. They wouldn't have any concept of that. They wouldn't have any concept of evasion other than, I hope they won't throw rocks, sticks, or spears or shoot those loud things at me. That would be like the amount of reasoning going on in what I presume a pterodactyl brain, which is just a little thing. So I wondered, are they popping in and out of these potential portals or something? Just some interesting thoughts, but we'll get into that on the other side, along with a whole bunch more stuff, which is always fun. But we're down to about 2 minutes here. I also want to remind everybody, if you would please, if you're not already, please get subscribed to our YouTube channel, Paranormal Portal Forever. Thank you, Alan. Good to see you over there, brother. Thanks so much. Please get subscribed if you're watching on YouTube, or if you want to see a whole bunch of episodes. There's over 750 episodes now we've got online on our YouTube archive. So there's lots to see if you want to check it out. Would love to have you over there. Please subscribe, hit the likes on the videos that you watch. That helps us a ton. And, spread the word if you would. That would be amazing. Also, we have a podcast, and the podcast is on all the major platforms. It's on iHeart, iTunes, Pandora, Spotify, Stitcher, Castbox, and Google Play. I mean, every major platform, and even some other ones that aren't as major. We're on those, so you can find us out there. And the podcasts are not the same thing as our YouTube channel. I know a lot of people say, I went over to YouTube and watched the podcast. Well, some podcasts do that. They do a streaming version, and then they do a recorded version for their audio podcasts. But our podcasts are just audio only, and they are different episodes like 90% of the time. Again, we sometimes port over some of these YouTube videos for the podcast just because the audience is different. It's not the same audience. So we like to give everybody a chance to listen to some of the better episodes. At least in our opinion, they are. I mean, I love all of our episodes, but you know what I'm saying. So, but that's all that's going on. Naysay is considering calling after the break. Read his chat notes if you can. Well, Naysay is welcome to do that. I'll try to check out the chat notes. But we got a lot of stuff to cover. I got a lot of stuff on the plate here. So we're going to go to our first break, ladies and gentlemen, in just a few seconds here. I don't know. I'm not hearing the bumper, so hopefully we're still connected. There's the bell. There it came. All right, ladies and gentlemen, don't go away. We'll be back with more of the Paranormal Portal in just a few moments. So got to go pay the bills now. So we'll be right back.
Extendivite, a 7-herb combination made from garlic, cayenne, hawthorn, right nutrients to keep us healthy. Just listen to what Arthur has to say.
I was just calling to tell you what a great product you have. I had used this about 10 years ago after I had congestive heart pain. And it fixed me up and got me going for the last 10 years. Lately, I've been having heart trouble again. So I placed an unlimited vote as this was the only thing that ever worked. And I just wanted to let you know that you have a great product.
To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822. Or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Oh, Jesus. I'm just a little flummoxed. There's other sound issues that came up over the over the break that have me a little perplexed, but I hope you can hear me. And then I forgot to unmute the mic and stuff. So, yeah, I'm rolling a deuce here. But anyway, I said before the break we're going to get into an article by the incredible Brent Swancer, writes for Mysterious Universe, and this article that he's written, and again, I haven't pre-read this, so I don't know what we're going to get into, but I'm really excited to see what he's put together for this article. But it's, again, mysteriousuniverse.org is the site where this is posted, and it's called Strange Portals and Reality Rifts in the Wilderness. Now, obviously, portals are pretty near and dear to my heart. Obviously. But we're going to see what this has to say. All right, so start out. It says, forests and wild places have always managed to draw to them the eeriest and most fantastical stories. These are places that typically hide beyond the human eye, existing out there in their own worlds, mostly unimpeded on. The wildernesses have long had legends, myths, and bizarre tales pervading them. Here we'll look at the cases of people coming across what seem to be strange portals out in the forests, as well as what might be tears in reality itself. I have to tell you that personally, I've always loved when I've been able to find reality shifts and time slips, stories like that. And there are not a lot of them out there. And I'm sure some of them are just creative writing and stuff. But, just imagine, what does that mean? And I think it just means that reality is much more fluid than we think. But the article continues on. It says, from the U.S. state of Montana, this is where Duke is. And by the way, the Duke is out on an expedition this weekend. So hopefully he'll have some amazing tales to bring back to us, because we're going to get him on the show to discuss after this expedition. I was going to say experience, but expedition. So from Montana, we have the case of Reddit user Berliner Ben, who said that in his younger years, he and his family lived in a valley he describes as a place the local Indian tribes had a lot of reverence for. And furthermore, the river that meandered through nearby was traditionally used by these tribes for vision quests. It already certainly sounds like an intriguing place, but one day it would apparently get even more so. On an otherwise calm, clear day, as he and his sister took a walk through these forests, the area they passed through is described as being an island at a fork in the river, covered with thick trees and one of their favorite places to explore, a place they had been to many times in the past. On this day, things would change, though, as the witness explains. Here we go into the actual experience. This particular day, however, was somewhat different. The weather was perfectly beautiful, golden sunshine filtering through the trees, and we were calmly walking through the forest when I felt what I can only describe as a figurative tug in the center of my chest. It felt like a fishing line was hooked into my heart, and I had little choice but to walk in the direction I felt it was leading me. At this time in my life, I was far more open to spiritual, supernatural experiences, so I know I was far more likely to believe what I was feeling. My sister noticed the change in my focus and my behavior and asked if I was okay. It was as if I could not speak or think, only follow this feeling in my chest. Well, my sister knew something was up and followed along, and I kept following this feeling, this tug, into the cottonwoods, where the trees were closer together, and this feeling was so odd. I felt completely captivated. I didn't want to feel or follow anything else. As we went further along, I felt that whatever this was leading towards an opening between two trees that had grown and arched and arched together over a dry stream bed. I know, typical, a natural doorway. But as I walked closer, this feeling of joy, awe, just happiness grew and grew. As my sister and I stepped through the trees into this dry creek bed clearing, the tug stopped. Instead, it was if the light itself became more real, golden, rich, as if you could now touch and feel it. Outside noises just faded away, and I felt as if time had just stopped. It was the same forest, and yet completely not the same. As she and I were standing there, silent and soaking this in, I see something black, 2 foot tall, dash across the clearing. Either this thing came from behind one tree and disappeared behind another, but I'll be damned if it didn't look like it came from under one tree and dove under another. Either way, I only got the quickest look, but I had never seen anything like it in these woods before, or after, for that matter. But shortly after this, both my sister and I noticed that this feeling, this change to the world around us, faded away in a few seconds. It was clear we were standing in the same forest as before. Nothing different from the last 100 times we had walked there. We walked home in silence as we both had felt something profound. That's incredible. So like they were in like a pocket dimension or a shift in that reality. And the same spaces they'd occupied before was just transformed into this, I don't know, a sacred grove kind of feeling or something. I don't know. That's pretty amazing. And of course, you know, it makes me think of the Fae, of course. When you've got that kind of shift and change, and then they saw that little figure jump from one tree to another, whether under up from one and under another or what, I don't know, and they didn't know, but that is really profound. I think that's incredible. Did these two pass into another realm? If only briefly. The detail of the landscape appeared to change as if the witness also stepped through some veil between realities. It's common in reports like these. In another case, we have a witness who says this happened at a state park in Arkansas during a camping trip with his family in the summer of 2014 as a part of celebrating his graduation from high school. He went out exploring down a path with his two brothers, and at one point, he says he was compelled to follow an offshoot that paralleled a clear and inviting stream that led deeper into the woods. I went about 15 or so minutes in, and that's where things got funky. Every woods has some type of sound going on, whether it's water flowing, bugs chirping, animals moving, or wind howling. But things went dead silent. And I mean just completely quiet. The hairs on me stood up, and I decided to cut a shortcut to the path where I thought my family would be on the trail by then. I started fast walking towards them, and my shoe was loose. Well, I bent down to tie my shoe real quick, and then looked back up, and the lighting had completely changed from daylight to darkness. That's creepy. It was around 5 to 6 p.m. when all of this happened, and 8:30 on my watch when I came back to reality. And the normal sounds of the woods were back. Well, I sprinted back to the stream and followed it back to the trail, sprinted down the trail and into the park station. I tried calling them on my phone, but there wasn't service in the woods. Well, I saw them talking to a park ranger and my mom in tears, but long story short, they were furious. I didn't tell them because I didn't want them to think I was crazy and made it up that I got lost. And they told me they tried looking for me after I was gone a while and then came to file a report when they couldn't find me. Now that's so much like a missing 411 kind of thing. Now, and maybe this is a glimpse to what some of these people experienced, you know. not everyone is killed in these missing 411 reports. Most of them are, as far as I know, but some of them are most are never found again. But the ones that are found, of course, the circumstances are very, very peculiar, but very wild. Perhaps even more harrowing possible portal encounter comes from the Missing 411 Reddit forum, from a poster who claims to have had a surreal and very frightening experience in the woods when he was 8 years old on a family camping trip. He said that he was out with his older brother, 11 at the time, and that they were out on one particular trail right next to the campground that went around a small lake in a perfect circle. There were no offshoots or branching trails which they went out along to go fishing. Well, on the other side of the campground was what he calls a wilderness trail that they had never used and which was off limits. On this day, they went out fishing as they had many times already, but this time things would unfold into a strange and scary incident, the witness says. The lake was in a deep gully with high ridge lines that surrounded it, so going off the trail was nearly impossible. It was small, and our parents allowed us to use the trail to go fishing, of which we had done all week. The wilderness trail was about 100 yards away from the entrance of our loop and on the opposite side of the campground, so we went fishing. And after taking the same trip many times before, it started getting dark and we headed back into the campground. We ended up getting lost. We never went off the trail. For the remainder of the night and the first light, we appeared at the entrance of the wilderness trail 100 yards away. Our parents were flipped out. The entire county had been searching for us, and neither of us remembered anything other than walking up to the trailhead in near dark. But we had lost time because to us, it never got completely 100% dark at all and felt like dusk the entire time we were lost trying to find our way back. It only felt like a couple of hours. It was dawn when we were found. We estimated that we were gone for 10 or 11 hours or so. My brother claims to remember some details like falling down a cliff, running from someone or something, literally dragging me as he ran through the cobwebs, etc. And ever since, he's had bad dreams of bright lights in the woods, a cave, shivering, rushing loud water, or engine sounds, etc. I've never had any memories from it. We were camping at DEAM, I guess that's Deem Wilderness area, and there's a well-known cave a few miles away, and we recently went back to the area to go fishing together, and we decided to go have a look around where we were at the campground almost 30 years later, and then realized it would have been nearly impossible for us to end up on the other trail as the cliffs and ravines were just too high. There was too much distance between the two trails, and we would have had to have made it through impossible odds to end up back at the entrance to the impossible trail walking in thick, untouched forest. Wow. There's some potential abduction stuff going on there, huh? Lost time. And that seems to be a common denominator here for everyone except the people that found like that, quote unquote fairy grove, for lack of a better definition. But that's pretty wild. I don't know. That is freaky. Thought there was a call, but there's no call. All right, so we'll continue on. He said, did they manage to disappear for so long on that closed trail to shift over that distance? And why was it dusk the whole time? Did these two briefly step into another dimension? Finally, we have a strange case from Reddit user Has Unix, who at the time of his weird experience was out at Wells State Park in Sturbridge, Massachusetts, on a beautiful clear day when he decided to take a trail that seems to have perhaps brought him past a rift in reality, he says. I decided that I would take a trail that I wouldn't see many other people on, and about 30 minutes into the walk, the forest seemed off. Despite the clear, pretty day, I couldn't help but feel this ominous energy around me. It was a feeling of being overwhelmed. The forest was increasingly alive, and birds were chirping back and forth boisterously, and I spotted hawks flying low at least 7 times, as well as squirrels screaming back and forth at one another in very close proximity to me. Further onto the trail, it kept pursuing and got increasingly louder before stopping in a few fading calls. At this point, I was able to record a video of it that I will link at the end of the post. I don't know that that's here, but at the end of the post, where is it? At the end of the post, and I made the decision to get out of there when the noise stopped, to take the trail to Carpenter's Rock, a popular cliff close to the exit of the park. At this point, it was silent. I couldn't hear anything but my steps and a few planes flying overhead. Then suddenly, almost everything screamed. It was a short burst of animal calls of all kinds, and it was loud and simultaneous. Like everything in a good mile around me sounded like it got stabbed in the gut. Well, I hightailed it away, and after 15 minutes, I ended up back at the parking lot, and I talked to a couple other hikers about it, and at least 5 other people heard it as well and booked it like I did. Wow, what are these strange little excursions off the beaten path, and what could they mean? What might we be dealing with here? Are these little rifts or tears in the fabric of reality itself popping up in these wild places to draw people in, only to blink back out of existence again? And where do they lead, and what happens when one doesn't return from them? Could phenomena such as these possibly be behind the numerous missing people who have seemingly vanished into thin air within the wilderness? There really is no way to know. But reports like this continue to come up of seeming something very unusual happening out in the forests away from civilization. What such cases may represent, they certainly put a strange spin on the outdoors. And it may be something to keep an eye out for in the next time you are taking a scenic, quiet hike. Yeah, that is so creepy. Wow. That is amazingly creepy. Brilliant article, though, as always, Mr. Swanser, if you happen to be out there listening. That is very cool. Very, I don't know, it just really twists my head around, because what is possible? You know, what is possible? So, what the hell did I have up there? Okay. Mr. Naysay, if you would like to try to call, please do. I just wanted to get through that article quick, so we weren't skipping back and forth a bunch, but I understand you're wanting to call in, sir. So, by all means, call. I will do my best to answer it as quickly as possible. Let's take a look at the time here and see. We got about 6 minutes, so maybe we'll get a chance to talk to him before the break, but maybe after. We'll see. But I think about those things all the time, this whole reality, and especially considering the missing 411 stuff. Hell, you know, there's the stories of the supernatural Squatch. Well, what if they know how to navigate these things? What if it's nothing more than knowing how to sense where those things will be and traversing them? You know? So people see these things fade away. We've talked to witnesses on this show of people witnessing Sasquatch fade away right in front of them in a field-like area. One caller told us about, he was out at his family's ranch visiting, it's like cousins or whatever, and or maybe it was his home, I don't recall, but it was by a field that had wilderness at the outer fringe of it, and he was walking along and all of a sudden looked up and saw only the upper torso of a Sasquatch. It was huge, and it was walking away from him, and as it walked away, he watched it melt or fade into nothing. So what if the Sasquatch maybe aren't supernatural at all, but maybe they're just able to, maybe they have a knowledge of these things and how they work. Maybe they know when these portals will appear, or perhaps there's a regularity to them that they've just become familiar with. as they've lived their entire lives and generations, thousands and thousands of years out in the wilds, maybe they can sense them. You know, it's hard to say, but I think that that's at least a consideration. Because, I mean, it's hard to imagine something just melting away and disappearing. It just really, you know, and I have an open mind, I really do, but there's some things that I just can't quite process. And it's not that I'm saying it's not possible, it's just that I don't know how to put my head around that. I don't know how to do it outside of magic, you know, and magic's a great explanation. And I'm not casting any aspersion by saying that, but perhaps, you know, I think in a lot of cases, magic is just knowledge, having knowledge of things or the system of things and being able to utilize that system to make things happen. And so that could very well be one way that these Bigfoots, dogmen, other things are able to traverse our world, remain hidden, and, you know, avoid discovery. They can probably just come in and out. They know the map. They know the doorways. It's like migrating birds. It's hard to understand. Or butterflies. A butterfly is this simple little thing. It's an insect, but it knows, like a monarch butterfly knows to go to South America or Central America for the winters, and it knows how to get there. Now, how's that? Well, it's like they got a sense for it. Birds migrate the same, you know, and they got little itty bitty brains too, but they know. There's many people suggest that they may know how to see ley lines. They can maybe see the energy ley lines of the earth and just navigate it. They just know. And so perhaps the same thing is true. Maybe these portals and vortices and things are frequent on these ley lines. So it's very interesting, and maybe we could learn about it too and utilize those things to traverse our earth. You know, I don't see why not. People are stumbling into them anyway. You know, people are wandering into these things anyway. Like, hey, well, imagine if we could map that out. If we could, but then, you know, like everything else, when people start touching it, it gets broken somehow. But I don't know. I think that there's something to that. I think if we could learn to map those things, we could probably travel those things. Nacy, I see you're on hold, brother, but we're down to just the 2-minute mark here. So hold the line, and I'll get to you on the other side after the break, and we'll start off with your call. Yeah, my break schedule just got a lot more hectic because I've got to disconnect the studio so that those of you on YouTube aren't hearing commercials and music. And I don't know if my music is bleeding through onto TFR as well. So someone in the chat on TFR says, synchromysticism, a portmanteau of synchronicity and mysticism. It's the art of realizing meaningful coincidence in the seemingly mundane with mystical or esoteric significance. I like that. That's a good word. That's from All One over in the TFR chat. Very cool. I've never heard of that, but I like it. Synchromysticism. But anyway, I also wanted to mention after the show tonight, if you're on TFR, iHeart, TuneIn, and TalkStream Live, stick around because Paisley Wild is coming up with the Spaces Between. And speaking of magic, that's kind of her wheelhouse. She does a lot of talk about utilizing magical practices and crystals and lots of energy and esoteric ideas. So if you want to learn a little more about that, stick around for the Spaces Between on TFR, iHeart, TuneIn, and TalkStream Live. And she streams it on her YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/thespacesbetween. So, yeah, good info for sure. All right, so we are about at the bell, so I'm not going to get into anything any more intense than that. But when we come back, we'll be joined by our good friend, Mr. Nacy, and we're going to see what's on his mind. And then we got more articles to get through before the night is over. It's already an hour. I hear the static's back, but good thing we got a call. Maybe the static will be better on the other side of that. So don't go away, everybody. We'll be right back with more of the Paranormal Portal. to play their games. Everybody loves to place their bets. They don't understand the price I paid. They don't care to comprehend. Trace their lines upon my body, dripping scars across my heart. Raging anger boils inside me as their lies keep falling apart. With my silence, I am not a stupid boy. No more breaking me with kindness, just you dance upon my joy. Leading me with empty promise, you're just another fucking mess. Taking off the slice of my sanity, just make sure that you're well fed.
Caroline is not like those she's with. They're attracted to the one thing about her that is different from themselves. Her life force is very strong. It gives off its own illumination. It is a light that implies life and memory of love and home and earthly pleasures. Something they desperately desire, but can't have anymore. Right now, she's the closest thing to that.
Poltergeists are usually associated with an individual. Hauntings seem to be connected with an area. A house, usually.
Poltergeist disturbances are of fairly short duration, perhaps a couple of months. Hauntings can go on for years.
That's right, it can, ladies and gentlemen. Hauntings can go on for years. At least that's what I've heard. I've heard that that's the case. Hope you guys are doing great. We are moving into hour number 2 at this point. And good thing we got a call because it's noisy. I guess it's got better now. I don't know where that's coming from for sure, but I think it might be a combination of the network and the call board. I'm not sure, though. But anyway, let's get to the call here and find out just what is going on. This is area code 701. Is that you, Mr. Naysay?
Hello, my brother from the same Mother Earth. Long time listener, first-time caller on today, Friday, August 21st.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you for taking the opportunity.
It's great to hear from you. How you doing? What's going on in your world?
I am trying not to drink coffee today, so I'm feeling a little creeper of that. No coffee headache, since I am a possessed entity by the coffee and sometimes sugar.
Oh, sure. Well, that's a tough thing. That's the thing about caffeine. But I think of all the vices, it's probably one of the easier one to quit. You just got to deal with a headache for a few days, and then you're fine. But I didn't get a chance to read any of the. I heard that you had notes in the chat or something. I didn't get a chance to check any of that out. So you're going to have to tell me what's on your mind, sir.
Well, if we could do a little time travel today and maybe open up our portals, because like a parachute, the mind works best when it is fully open. Excuse me.
I think
that is from a stem.
That's what?
That little cough, it wasn't Corona or cannabis. It was a stem earlier, just before the last break, that I was chewing on and swallowed and got stuck in my throat ever since, and that's why I didn't call. And then when you made a comment about calling again, I heard the hiss again.
Yeah.
And so I was calling in, so I apologize. I'm jumping in and jumping out.
Oh, no, that's fine.
But
go ahead.
I'm sorry. There's a big delay today, Brent. I'm usually used to it. Maybe I'm nervous of being with such a famous entity as yourself. It's a brilliant light.
Whatever. Oh, flattery will get you everywhere, but keep going.
All right, but on Wednesday, you guys were talking about that one term that I don't care to say.
Yeah.
If you'd like to say it, I think it's cool.
The Wendigo, yeah.
But, yes. Well, from my experiences, and as a card-carrying, pedigree-holding Native American that is enrolled on the White Earth Reservation,
Okay.
Minawa, Moorhead, Minnesota, Nungumunde. But when I got into the paranormal and the metaphysical stuff and would look into these things, especially the entities of the forest, of course, my curiosity was always, ask the elders.
Sure.
Ask the elders, and you get a better ideology, because as things get passed down, like the telephone game, from the past to the future, things get a little bit distorted, and there's nothing that I have found more distorted than the history of the Anishinaabe people that at one time were called the Algonquian people, and at another time were called the Ojibwe, or the Chippewa, or the Blackfoot, or the Potawatomi, or the Minoman, the Winnebago, the Ojibwe. As you can see, we've been called many different things because divide and conquer has been the rule of thumb for the powers that should not be.
Mm-hmm.
But as we talk about this entity that is horrific in its discussion, because as an Anishinaabe, we're taught the absolute heinous thing that you can do to another Anishinaabe is not only to kill that entity, but to drink and consume that entity, its blood and its flesh. And even more horrific than that, if there could be anything more horrific than that, since we are all miraculous perfection of the unique individuals and have the right to exist under inalienable creators, that to harm innocence, which would be considered any child that has not gone through puberty. Now, I feel as humane beings, Homo sapiens, that it is so much easier for us to conceptualize the fact that a creature, whatever we want to get into semantics, is more able to do such horrific things to humans than to believe that another human would do such a thing to another human.
Okay.
And this is where the Anishinaabe came up with the word, if you would say it, please.
Wendigo?
That it would be when a Anishinaabe gave into his or her own darkness to the point that they are willing to do learned rituals and ceremonies to take on the other person's essence, soul, power, energy, whatever you wish to call that we have that automates our body. These are those entities. And I do believe that just like Gollum from Lord of the Rings, when they showed the original Gollum before he Schmeagol, before he turned into Gollum, I think that's a good metaphor or representation of going down the dark path of what happens to you, whether physically, emotionally, mentally, or spiritually.
Oh, okay. So but it is a physical perversion as well, right? I mean, like, because the Wendigo are described as these, these gaunt, large, lanky beings. So are you saying that the people are transformed physically by this possessing spirit, or what is that?
Well, that is where my assumption would go with it.
Okay.
That we all go through a transformation, whether or not we are able to see it, because our eyes, we don't realize the lies that our oogly-googlies tell us. Because according to science, air quotes, that we can only discern less than 20% of what we see. Because the other stuff is so beyond our comprehension. Occam's razor will say, make it look like this and make it look like that. But one thing that I would add to that, I have realized through the summers and winters that I have survived, 53 of them, that before my birth, the powers that should not be have had the technological advanced equipment or magic, in a sense, to actually create images before us, create thoughts in our mind, and have us hear the words that we think we're actually hearing. And so I ponder that if one person sees some type of entity, could it possibly be that that entity is so far advanced than we are that through its algorithms, it can denote through mental telepathy of what would be the easiest for us to comprehend than what is actually in front of them, and they imprint these images and thoughts and sounds into our entities.
Oh, okay. So like a telepathy kind of thing, eh?
Exactly.
Okay, that's an interesting idea.
And lastly, because I was so into the whole entity that we were discussing, that I called my elder, that I go to about my questions, and I told him about a dream. If I can still help get rid of the static and share, I had a dream of where I was either a brother or an uncle to a family. And I say that word loosely because there's adoption ceremonies that we can do where even if we're not blood related, I can create the brother of you through ceremony. So what it was is this father asked of me to go and get the teaching tool because his child is being disruptive and not following, the rules and regulations or the expectations of the tribe.
Okay.
And so what the parents would tell their children is that if you do not behave, this entity is going to come and take you away. You need to behave. And it was almost like psychological reprimanded.
The boogeyman.
And what they would, exactly. Yeah. And so what the Native Americans did is they would have an individual that created a leg-looking apparatus out of like a taxidermy, taking different furs and different things and creating this horrific leg. Mm-hmm. And then what they would tell their children at the time of when they're no longer behaving and it's nighttime, all of a sudden a crazy howl or a sound would be heard outside of the lodge. And then the parents would be like, we told you, this is the G-Jock. That's what it's called. I'm willing to say that word because it's a positive entity. The G-Jock is coming. Oh. And so then the noise would get louder and louder, and at some point the child would be like, I'm sorry, and the father would be like, there's nothing we can do, it's already coming, and the child would just get panicky. And they would sometimes even go so far as putting the leg through the opening of the dwelling, and then the father will turn around and go, no, go away, he has promised to behave. He's promised to do what he's supposed to do and stuff. And then the leg would pull out.
Jeez. Wow.
And I had that dream after reading Heidler's book about Ojibwe child life.
Oh, okay.
And that's where that came from. So if you think as time continues to pass on and you hear these Native American or the Algonquins or the Anishinaabe sharing with the new Europeans, yeah, we had these things and these, these tools, because the only thing that's as bad as striking your child is striking your pet or your dog. Oh. We are taught as Algonquian people that you do not strike your children nor your dog. That is like a big absolute no-no. And it's cool. Saddened to see how it has changed over the domination.
Yeah.
But if you think of the Algonquins where they're sharing with the early frontiersmen and that these stories, then we can see how they can morph into like, yes, there's this horrific creature that comes out of the night and will steal you. Or they're,
Yeah.
And I only say that loosely and take because I'm the stupidest man I know. I say this loosely because this is what I have found to be a truth in my experiences. Mm. Now, I do not want to shame or dismiss anybody's experiences because I haven't experienced that. Okay. I can only share my experiences.
Sure.
And so I always want to believe that when I hear these experiences of other people, even though I have been lied to, and I did believe in the Santa Claus at one time also, so I really want to believe that for the most part, these entities are sharing their truth and their experiences. But I just wanted to share that teaching and what I've learned about the when did I go to sleep or when shall I wake up.
Right. I think it's interesting that every culture seems to have their boogeyman, and in the First Nations there was I think it was Janasqua that Tom Seawood has talked about. He was on Sasquatch Chronicles with Wes a few times, and seems like a really nice guy, but he talks about the legends they had, and it's basically a Bigfoot with a big basket on its back. And the story was if you don't misbehave and if you're out late, then... And I don't remember if it was Janasqua was the term he used, but he used some term and said that if you're not inside by the time it gets dark, she'll come and take you away up to the mountain and, keep you as a slave in her cave or eat you or whatever. But, I mean, of course, the boogeyman... Get inside, the boogeyman will get you. The wood boogers, was another, and still they call them boogers to this day. So everybody has their legends like this. It's funny because it's funny that all of these different cultures had come to the same conclusion that sometimes you just got to scare the hell out of your kid. That's the best way to teach them.
Well, I would absolutely agree, and I have met, members from my reservation and members from other reservations that have, witnessed Sasquatch. And me and you off the air, we've talked. I've shared with some of those things that I've been trying to get for you and whatnot.
Yeah, I'd love to see that. I just think the other thing I was thinking of when you're talking about the possessing spirit, I was thinking of exorcisms. They often talk about the person visibly, physically changing their face, the structure of their face. Now, the bone obviously isn't changing, but it seems to change the musculature or the firing of the musculature. Like people look completely like different people because when that possessing spirit takes hold, it may these subtle muscles that are in our face that we for the large part don't use. It sounds like these entities really utilize those and absolutely change the appearance of people. And so I was wondering about that as far as a possessing spirit and having a visage looking at you that didn't look like a normal face.
Well, absolutely, and if now we're stepping on that realm of shape shifting,
Right.
and when what we have in the Anishinaabe world, we have what is called the Meday Lodge, and in the Meday Lodge, it is open to everybody. It's not a secret society. Everybody knows about it, and you're welcome to join. But there's protocols and rituals and ceremonies that you have to go through to become different levels.
Okay.
And when you get to these levels, there is discussion of not only opening portals, but transcending space and time.
Wow.
And I have been told stories. Well, I'll just share with you. So supposedly in North Dakota, I learned this. I used to go and do ceremonies with the Buon. In my language, we call them the Buon people, but they're known as the Lakota, Dakota, Nakota people.
Okay.
And so I would go to some Buon ceremonies just because rituals and ceremonies are ceremonies, and if it's to raise the consciousness or the illumination of the entity, then by all means do the ceremony and ritual.
Right.
So I went to this ceremony, and we're sitting on the fire, and then somebody brings up this occurrence that happened, and I was like, wait, go back and talk about that? So the story that I hear that evening is that there was an entity, a elder, that was doing negative magic.
Okay.
That he was more or less like, semantics, an energy vampire. And he was causing occurrences to happen, and then there was even allegations that he was trapping spirit.
Oh.
Because this is attainable.
Yeah.
And if you're a force of negativity, then because of the Holy Trinity, positive, neutral, and negative, there are forces of positivity. So a group of other elders that were, semantics again, positive magic, they go to confront this guy, and they go down into his home and into his basement. So they're in their basement, and apparently a battle occurred where the forces of good had to push the negative entity into the ground. And the ground literally opened up.
Wow.
And kind of like quicksand opened up, and the guy started seemingly being, lowered into the ground and under that. And then allegedly after they did this, they left the house. The person was like MIA, and then a couple weeks later, something like that, the house burned down.
Oh, man. Wow.
Exactly. and these are some of the stories that I learned because I went to college to get my BA in Native American Studies because originally I was going to be a tribal lawyer.
Oh, okay.
And when I went to the universities and started reading all of the books about the Native Americans, I became a book smart engine. is what I called myself. But then as I got more and more involved, you like that one?
Yeah.
The Book Smart Engine. And I used to have a concrete pony also. But
okay.
When I got more involved with the rituals and the ceremonies and talking to the elders and going to the powwows and different gatherings, then you started learning a whole different story, where there is that difference between his story and history.
Oh.
And then when you start learning about the birch bark scrolls, and it's like, wait, we had a language in a sense. It wasn't a written alphabet, but we had like hieroglyphics or symbols, or petroglyphs that told an entire story.
Wow.
And the storyteller of the tribe, what they would do is when they sit around and they tell their stories, they would watch the children, because in the winter, what do? When it's the winter and the darkness hours are longer, how do you stay entertained?
Right.
Well, usually what there was like a council of storytellers. And they would tell stories of incredibleness to teach lessons, fables, myths, legends, but then they would also tell stories of history. And when this entity would tell the story to the children, they would pay attention to who is most immersed into it. And then that individual was usually tapped as a storyteller.
Oh, cool.
And then you would have other councils. You would have other councils that would know positive magic, or they would know magic, semantics, and then they would tap those children, just like the best hunter would pay attention to the children. And it could be any gender.
Sure.
A woman could be a hunter, and a man could be a hunter, and if a man wanted to do work or chores that were kind of considered with gender, vagina, a man could do that. It didn't matter one way or the other.
Okay.
The only thing that was kind of critical is very, very rarely were men ever able to carry and bring in water. That was a woman's thing, because water is life.
Yeah.
And through our mothers we come through water. And then you get into that whole esoterics of birthing, like a ship in the water and maritime admiralty law. It's pretty interesting, the similarities.
That's pretty incredible.
Back to your original statement, round robin here. If we have the ability to transmute energy, then yes, we would have the ability distorting our face, especially the skin and the muscle. The brain, or the skull and the bones are a little bit harder, but to manipulate the skin and the flesh is absolutely doable, especially when you don't want someone to recognize who you are and what you're doing, especially if it's of darkness or negativity.
Right. Wow. That's intense, brother. You took us down a great journey. We're about at the last break, so but thank you so much, brother. I appreciate you calling in and sharing all of this. This has been intense.
And by the power of the almighty pinky toenail, may the hiss stay away even after the break. I love you, brother.
All right, we'll see you, brother.
Way beyond. Toodles.
Toodles. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was very cool. We're going to go to our last break, and then you're only stuck with me another 27 minutes, 25 minutes, something like that. But I'll be back after the break to try to entertain you through the rest of the journey. So, all right, don't go away.
This is not a valid menu option.
Well, thanks for that. Why not? It's that kind of night, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I guess we are back. That was kind of an intro, kind of. I just love this technology stuff. Keeps me on my toes. Keeps it all sharpened up and razor sharp. I've got something kind of cool for you guys. I thought this was interesting, and we'll get into this in just a second here as I pull it up and get it ready to go onto the big screen. I want to show you this visually because it's visual as well as interesting. And what it is apparently in some NASA photographs, they found the number 2 on the sun. And I think that's just bizarre. That is really bizarre. I got to see if I can blow this up. Nope, that's not it. Oh, God. But yeah, there's a number 2 on the sun. There it is right there. But let's get into this. It says, in one of the photographs of our star, which is the Soho Heliosphere Observatory, periodically sends to Earth, the famous Taiwanese ufologist and virtual archaeologist Scott Waring discovered an anomaly in the form of the number 2. So the indefatigable, I don't even know how the hell to say that word. That's a whole lot of syllables, ladies and gentlemen, this late at night. But researcher immediately remembered earthly messages into space in order to establish contacts with alien, which today, for example, is carried out by space speak. I'm not familiar with that. Based on all of this, Waring concludes that the number 2 on the sun may well be a message response from a more advanced extraterrestrial civilization. Yeah, if they can put numbers on the surface of the sun, they're way ahead of us. The number 2 itself is a symbol meaning harmony and love. Thus, the aliens express their attitude and their friendly wishes to us, the ufologist believes. However, skeptics immediately objected to Waring, quite rightly, noting that the solar surface is constantly changing streams of gas that can swirl in spirals, and therefore a double helix in the form of a corresponding figure is a completely natural anomaly for our star. It is, but that is, you got to admit that that complete angle there and the straightness of the next one is pretty peculiar. One can agree with such scientific explanations, if not for one, but squares, umbrellas, and other figures are noticed on the sun, which do not naturally arise in nature and which cannot be explained by the movement of gases. Giant UFOs flying by against the background of our star also do not fit into the scientific concept of skeptics. This is exactly what the Taiwanese researcher who remain unconvinced pointed out to them. Aliens not only follow us, but also periodically send us various messages, for example, crop circles. Well, I'm sure that won them over. I'm sure that was a good way to win the skeptics over. Oh, yeah, they do send crop circles. I'm pretty sure they probably don't subscribe to that either. The message imprinted on the sun is no more frightening and not more mysterious. It's just that people are already used to crop circles, but they are just getting used to cosmic symbols and messages. So the number 2 appeared, and if you look at that image, gotta admit, that's really a number 2. However, it could also be a different symbol as well. I've got to do a little bit of research into some ancient symbols and esoteric symbols that I have. I have just volumes of them, so I'm going to dig through it and see if there's anything else which could be represented by what looks to us like a number 2. But it is really quite interesting. I find that this part of it is not so incredible. The swirling top of the what would be the number 2. What I find compelling is the fact that it comes to a point and then goes at a almost horizontal angle back straight, so it's like this is but the other part of it is this three-dimensional? Is this actually the surface, and this is swirling up and out of the surface, then back down, and this could just be a really tight angle, but due to the perspective of the camera, it looks like an absolute point. It could be much more gradual than it seems, but at least on first examination, that is really impressive. I gotta admit, I was surprised when I saw that. But again, there's a lot I don't know about this, and we don't know, but it's curious all the same. Now, I do think that symbols are, given to us. I think we're given symbols. We're given symbols through nature. It can be a bird showing up at the right time to sing a song, and maybe that'll trigger a symbol to you. It could be a favorite bird of a loved one who passed away, and then the symbol would be it's a visit. You're being visited. It could be just a butterfly flying by. Oh, my grandma loved butterflies. It must be her. So we often look for symbols, and we accept symbols as a part of our consciousness to whatever might be the divine or the spirit mind or consciousness of the universe. So I think it's something, but again, I don't know enough to have a real objective opinion on it. I just thought it was pretty cool, so that's why I'm showing you guys. And besides, you've been looking at me all night. It's nice to look at something else, I'm sure. I try to put something else on the screen other than my mug all the time. At least give you something. Oh, YouTube, give me a break. Now it's giving me some. Are you guys getting me okay? Everything working good? Let me know if there's any issues at all. I should check the vault. Yeah, there you go, Lucky. That's the one right there. Oh, thank you. Yeah, derp. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Yeah, Lucky says, she says, I see more than a 2. I see 2, 4, and a 6. That's very interesting. Yeah, I guess, yeah, really. You could see all of those in that swirl and symbol as well. That's a great point. Thanks for pointing that out. So there is symbols, but again, we do find symbols in a lot of things, whether they're actually there or not. If it resonates with you, it must be. And I think that a lot of times we dismiss symbols as well, when perhaps we should pay attention to them, because I think that the universe does talk to us, that God does answer, and sometimes it'll be with symbols, and so do our loved ones. I think that they're always listening. They're always there. So if a symbol appears and it means something to you and it makes you feel good, hold on to that. Don't let somebody take that away from you, because I especially nowadays we need those symbols for sure. But I thought that was a cool little article and very, very interesting. Again, here's one of these are kind of interesting. I don't know what you guys think of this, but this is another quick one. Well, let me steer away from that, because I don't want too much visual stuff, because I can't put everything. I guess I could put the article up on TFR as well. Let's do this. And I find these interesting because if you go online, you can see examples of people finding doppelgangers through time. Apparently there's who is it? The founder of Ferrari. His grandson is like a spitting image of him. Like a twin. I mean, honestly, looking just like him. But this article is from animalien.com, and the article is, the man from England is shocked he found himself in a 115-year-old photo. And I'm going to put that up on screen on YouTube, but let me just paste this article into TFR so that people can check that out. Open up a window and check that out if they're online. But it says let me put it on screen. 24-year-old artist Michael Corpish, who lives in England in the small town of Stockport, feels out of place in his life. He likes the 19th century so much that he doesn't want to recognize absolutely any new achievements of modern science. The Briton loves clothes from the Victorian era. He uses only a bicycle for movement. Michael tries not to use modern technology, but writes exclusively with pen and ink. In the artist's home, you can see a huge amount of antiques, and it is equipped in the style characteristics of the 19th century. He soon began to suspect that his past life, he was living at the time, so he still had such an attachment. In the spring of this year, he found confirmation of this, which shocked the artist. His friend Michael sent a photo he found on the internet. It depicts a man who is an exact copy of the artist, but the photo was dated 1905. Initially, Michael thought that it was some kind of fake, but the photo turned out to be real. The man added that those who saw this picture called him a time traveler. Michael does not know anything about the person in the photo, but if you take into account his clothing style, then he is either from the USA or from the UK. Michael was shaken because he never seen anything like it before, but gradually he got used to the idea that he had once lived. At least this explains at least a little of his strange behavior and love for antiquity. Here's the images, and I'm blowing them up here. That is striking, really striking. I mean, the hair, obviously you can style your hair any way you want to, so that's obviously done on purpose to duplicate that, but wouldn't it be something if that's the way he always wore his hair too? That is kind of a timeless hairstyle, but there are so many similarities. It's funny that the 1905 picture is actually sharper than the 2021. That is incredible, though. There's a little bit of difference in the eyelids, but not much. Very, very little. His nose seems to have a little more of an arch on it now, but that really is pretty striking. That would definitely could pass as twins for sure. And you know, there's something to that. I think that, like for me, for instance, there's something about the 1920s that I find absolutely compelling. I don't know why, but I just look at old movies that depict the 1920s and actual film reels from the 20s, and I find myself experiencing this odd, I don't know, aching feeling, like it's a time that resonates with me for some reason. And it does make sense. I do entertain the idea that we live more than once. And to me, it's like, well, you know, perhaps that was where I was. Maybe I was around then. Maybe I was kicking it back here a long time ago. I don't know. It's just, it's obviously a theory and nobody can prove or disprove it. But when you look at stories of children who come into this life remembering their past life, remembering details, remembering family, remembering children, remembering locations that they couldn't possibly know. And we're talking about toddlers, little children that couldn't possibly have been exposed to this kind of information. Now, there's a lot of claims out there, and maybe some of them are a little weak, but there are some that have been studied by universities, and they believe that there's something incredibly powerful going on with that. Again, sorry for the hiss, but Farm, call me, will you? The hiss is louder. Farm, call me. Farm's the snake charmer here. Sounds like I'm surrounded by either rain or snakes. So when he calls, I'll answer it, and then I'll just have him sit quietly for the rest of the show. But no, I think that there is something to the past life thing. I think that, I don't know. I mean, it depends on your philosophy, and I'm not trying to insult anybody's belief system. Please don't ever take that way. I'm just sharing you mine. Thanks for calling, Farm. Let me get you. Are you there?
Don't ever take that way.
Hey.
Perfect. All right. Just I'm going to keep talking. What do you think about the past life thing, Farm?
You know what? I missed part of that, but the whole past life concept, I've been looking at that a lot, Lee, and I don't know what to make of that. Like, some people seem to have some really vivid past life memories, and they seem to match up with reality. So I don't know, other than to, I guess I kind of have to look at it like it might have some credence.
I think there's something to it, and I was mentioning examples of children who are born with memory from their past life, including family. And the interesting thing is that there's some parents that have actually taken their children to the place where they said they were from, and where family members were still surviving. Yeah. And the children will recognize these family members by name and talk to them, and
Yeah.
it's these incredible experiences. So it really seems to have some credence.
Yeah, those stories blow my mind. Like, it seems like, no, that couldn't be. But then when they know the names, they know the people, they know the places, it's like, it's kind of hard to ignore it at that point.
Right. I think so too. I think that that's pretty powerful. It's only children, for what I've heard. Yeah, so Bam, here's the thing. The children are probably the most pristine examples of this. Now, there are some people that believe in past life hypnosis and things like that, where you can get hypnotized and be brought back to a past life, but those, of course, are much more subjective and open to interpretation, because as adults, we have a lot of symbology and been exposed to a lot of things in our lives. So it's easily explainable just by psychological imprint. But when it's children, those are the pristine examples, because they can relate events, places, people that they couldn't possibly have known. They couldn't even possibly have a knowledge of these people. And I find those incredibly interesting. Now, what also is interesting is that in the cases of these children born with these past life identities still intact, is that generally they fade by about the year 5 years old. Normally, most of those children have not much recollection, if any at all. It's like it fades over that time. So, which I guess is kind of important, because if you're going to start, well, I don't know, it would be like the parents would be robbed of a child. Like if it came with a fully formed personality and knowledge, it'd be like, well, it's kind of not really a kid. You know, how do you raise someone that's already been raised, and how do you create new memories? But so I can understand that. But the other part is that, you know, you think about it, it'd be nice if I knew, like if I was to come back again, I would want to know all the stuff that I had to figure out the hard way now. You know, because I don't want to do this stuff again, you know. That was.
I would love to have already learned those life lessons when I get here, because it's been 40 years and I think I'm just getting it.
Well, good for you, brother. You know, I mean, honestly, you know, I'm still figuring a lot of it out, but it is interesting. But thanks for that comment, Bam. I appreciate that, and I appreciate your participation on that. I'm trying to look at everything here, and I'm doing all right. But yeah, it's funny how the sound gets absolutely better as soon as I have a phone connection. That is so strange. The ghost in the machine farm.
Well, hey, man, you know, it's the least I could do, and I'm glad to be a silent key if you need a silent key, and I'll jump in if you want me to talk. I also see in the chat here, looks like Bomber has a story concerning this past life memory stuff.
Oh, please.
So it sounds like she might be interested in calling in and telling that.
Yeah, please do. It is working. You can call, or do you want me to connect directly to you? I don't think I have your connection, but you can call 720-923-0500 or reach out to me. You know, we only got about 7 minutes. So actually, Bomber, I would love to hear that story, but let's make arrangements to get you on the show when we have more time, because I'd love to hear that. I really would. I find that absolutely fascinating, and you could definitely be a part of it. That'd be great. But yeah, I think that's really cool. You're too Canadian for that. Okay. I gotcha. So very interesting. But this guy's got his doppelganger, and it's like a century apart. That's pretty cool. Huh. Well,
that's crazy.
I know it really is, and there's a lot of those. There's if you go online and look for the whole you know, twins over time or whatever. I don't know what terms you'd have to search for, but like even Nicolas Cage has one. I think it's Joseph Levitz, whatever, that actor. He's got one that, you know, of an old time photo where it looks exactly like him, and I think we probably all do, because I'll tell you this one thing I have seen in my life is that. I think there's only so many faces. Like there's only so many combinations to make faces possible. And I swear I've I used to live in Minnesota, and then I moved to the north tip of Idaho. And I ran into people here that were very, very, very similar to the people I had known back home physically, like their features. And it was funny to me, because as I observed those people and as I got to know them, they had the same personality types. So there must be something to that. Like, does our personality?
Yeah, I've observed that too.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No. By all means, please.
Yeah, I've observed that too. We had a camp up in Ticonderoga for a while, and we would go up there and spend a couple of weeks up there, and we got to make friends in the area up there, up on the north end of Lake George. And it's funny how, like, I've noticed that too. There's almost like archetypes of people,
right?
And they have like similar looks, similar personality, and you almost like they have. Like, I've found that they have different names, but I end up calling them the name of the other person that I know so many times because they're so similar in personality and facial feature and build and body language and all. Really interesting.
Yeah, it is. And you got to wonder, does the personality create the form, or does the form create the personality?
Good question. I would love to know the answer to that. I don't know if we ever will.
I gotta believe it's the personality that creates the form. It's like that must be the way that it molds a body around it. It's like the certain personality types form similar body types and features. There's this thing that I learned about back when I was younger and studying different things. There's something called under the code, and it's where you can look at people. And based upon their physical attributes, you can tell a lot about them. Like, for the instance, the low eyebrows, low to the eye, is considered. Those are usually considered very friendly people, very warm people. The whole earlobe, if their ear, the outer edge of the ear is curled over, those are generally closed-minded people. But if it's like not curled over, they tend to be open-minded. And the list goes on and on of all these physical attributes. And I found them to be surprisingly accurate.
Interesting.
Right?
I'll have to often pay more attention to at least those couple you mentioned because I never thought of that. But that's, wow, Brent, you always open some awesome topics and discussions, and you always get my mind thinking. I love how it affects me through the rest of the day because I'm always thinking about what we were talking about or what you were talking about and trying to put it into context against all the other shows and all the other information.
Oh, cool, man. I'm glad it's appreciated. I just attribute it to me being incredibly random.
It could be, but I mean, I think there's really something to that. What you're saying about how the personality creates the form, and I think as we look into quantum physics and as technology evolves and our understanding of physics and reality and consciousness evolves, it seems more and more like things come from the idea first, and then the form builds around them.
Right.
And one of the, actually another, I think it was the same Sasquatch Chronicle from one of the other ones I was talking about before. The guy was talking about tulpas, and I know you've talked about those as well on here.
Yeah.
And that's a whole interesting idea that you can like create something from an idea or from a,
it is.
From your head, basically.
Right. And, it's these energy projections that people can create. Tulpas, and for those of you not familiar with it, they are basically physical manifestations that are birthed by a person. And it could be birthed from irrational fear, it could be birthed by love, it could be birthed by any number of strong emotions or intents. But the idea is that we do or can manifest things to appear. And, could that be an explanation for some of the weird creatures out there? Could they be tulpas of fear or something like that? And, I guess it's possible. Strange.
Yeah, I sometimes do that with these, especially with these ghost and paranormal encounters where people are really afraid. I almost wonder, did they create that in their head and then it manifests because they created it in their head, or is it something that happens and it's just becomes part of their reality? I always wonder, which side it came from first.
Well, when you consider the poltergeist phenomena, there's a lot of people that believe that they are manifest by the person. Whoever tends to get haunted the most it could very well be the person manifesting that energy as a subconscious extension of themselves. And I think there's probably something to that to a good degree, but my God, if that's possible, then imagine what we're capable of, because poltergeist hauntings are absolutely off the charts, physical, and, with, not too far removed from the, I mean, obviously the movie Poltergeist is a pretty huge dramatization, but people have claimed that their cabinets will open and shut like crazy in the whole kitchen, and they'll lights will be swinging and blinking throughout their whole house, and like dinner table chairs are stacked in pyramids and stuff, just like boom. And if you think of the amazing expression of power that is what are we capable of if that is indeed a manifestation of a person?
Well, yeah, absolutely. And I think that takes us right back to, what our biggest limitation is that we don't realize how powerful we are. And if we just, let ourselves become what we really are and like recognize our power, boy, it's amazing what you can do. Yeah. And I'm just starting to get a taste of that as I'm learning more about myself,
Well, there's the bell, brother. Thank you for bringing me through it. And love you all. Stick around for Paisley Wild coming up next. The Spaces Between. Love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. Find the magic in every day. And remember to laugh as much as you can. Good night, everybody.
Thanks, Brent. Love you, Porta people.
Hi, my name is Ella.